faces from every nation. I wanna find a place that's for conversation, where they discuss all the latest movies, or when something big happens in the news. See, that's us, what are we talking about? So what are we talking about today?
Hello everybody. This might be a little blurry, and now you can't see. Welcome to the Carcast, the What Are We Talking About Carcast, or I guess you could say the Carcast, presented by What Are We Talking About, or even, I don't know, whatever you want to fucking call it. It's up to you, bud. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening, watching, however you're ingesting. I mean, if you're watching this, there's not much to see. It's very dark. There's my hand. Hello. But, thank you anyways. If you are watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to this on Soundcloud or iTunes, thank you as well. So I talked to you guys last week and said that this week I'm going to be ranking the 8 Star Wars films. I've seen Rogue One twice now, and I am ready to do this. I have not done a review yet of Rogue One. I'm gonna wait. Probably I'll do it sometime this week. So I wanted to give everybody a little bit of a chance to see it, because I want to do a full spoiler discussion. So this is just going to be me talking about the entire Star Wars franchise, ranking the movies in order of what I think is best and worst and whatnot. Okay, so first, at the very, very bottom of the list, easily the worst Star Wars movie, Star Wars Attack of the Clones. Now, some people might disagree and put Phantom Menace lower than Attack of the Clones. But let me tell you the reasons why. So, first of all, Phantom Menace is bad. I'll agree to that. It has some memorable, cool moments. And the third act, it's got some really good parts in the third act. It starts out not great, and the stuff with Jar Jar is the reason why people hate that movie so much, and I can agree to that. Jar Jar is a terrible character, should have never been in Star Wars. Episode 2 proves that Episode 1 was not a mistake. Terrible dialogue. I want to say, though, I would say Hayden Christensen in Episode 2 gives a better performance than Jake Lloyd in Episode 1, but the difference is Jake Lloyd was like fucking 8 years old or whatever, 12, and so you give him a little bit of leeway because a child actor is not necessarily going to be the greatest. But anyways, back on to Episode 2. The relationship that's supposed to be the crux of this entire movie between Padme and Anakin feels creepy and forced and completely unnatural. They have little to no chemistry at all. The only interesting part is basically the Colosseum sequence. I don't know. I don't dislike Obi-Wan's journey in Episode 2, but the motivation for him is just, I'm just playing like detective for the I want to say rebellion, but that's not right. For the Republic. That's and for the Jedi Order, he's just going around looking, trying to figure out what's going on, basically. And it's like, okay, well, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Obi-Wan is the good parts of all 3 of these movies. I mean, Episode 1, Obi-Wan's barely in it. The real good part of Episode 1 is Darth Maul. But Episode 2, like, there's not much that you can look at and be like, that's good. Not only is that, but one of the lightsaber battles in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, are fucking just embarrassing. So first you have the Jedi in the whatever the fuck it's, well, okay, the battle between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Jango Fett was kind of cool. Then the next lightsaber involved battle is Anakin killing the fucking sand people or whatever, and then he also uses it in that droid factory, which was an incredibly weird and horrible sequence. And then so we get Mace Windu. He pops up and he's got the lightsaber to Count Dooku's neck, can't pull the trigger there, just gets fucking flamethrowered by Jango Fett and jumps down, and well, now he's no better than any of the other Jedi. So then you get to the climactic final lightsaber battle. Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Count Dooku. Okay, this sounds like it'll be cool. Anakin rushes in, gets all fucked up. Then Obi-Wan gets the only time anyone's ever been hit in the body with a lightsaber and not had that entire part of their body cut off. Episode 2, Obi gets just stung a little bit on the arm and a little bit on the leg, but enough that he just has to lay there and hold his wounds because it's ouchy. It's a real big ouchie. So anyways, then Anakin saves Obi-Wan by jumping and lightsaber blocking Count Dooku, and Dooku's like, oh, you're a brave little bitch, ain't ya? And then Anakin proceeds with 2 lightsabers to attempt I don't even know. There's not any sort of fucking style going on there. He just literally spins in a circle twice, loses one of them. That was it. He literally only has 2 lightsabers for less than a minute, less than one whole minute. And then he gets fucked up by Dooku right away. Dooku fucks him up, cuts his arm off. And then Yoda shows up and he saves Anakin and Obi-Wan. But guess what else he does? Turns into a CGI flip monster that just goes all wackadoo. And that scene, when you hear Yoda battling with a lightsaber, it sounds like it'd be awesome, right? But then you watch the scene and it's just like a green CGI blur flipping around some dude wearing a Christopher Lee mask. It looks garbage, and it might have been cool when it first came out, and I definitely thought it was, but I was also, fucking 6 or 8 or whatever. I was not very old. I was 7, I think, when episode 1 came out. So, this is how I feel about these movies. And so episode 2 to me is just absolutely the worst Star Wars movie. There's a few redeemable parts to it, but overall, it's easily the worst. Then episode 1, yes, it has some dumb things. It's what gave us midi-chlorians and whatnot. But it has some really good characters in it. Qui-Gon Jinn, I think, is an awesome character. It also is the most understated. We see Sam Jackson as Mace Windu. Sam Jackson in episode 3 almost gets going full Sam Jackson, but episode 3 is the best prequel easily. But anyway, so episode 1, yes, Jar Jar Binks is garbage. Yes, pretty much everything to do with the Gungans is garbage. But the underwater sequence was actually kind of cool. The pod racing, I think, is a great addition to the Star Wars universe. And what else did we have? I don't know. Episode 1 just wasn't as offensive. I can watch episode 1 and it's fine. It's not a good movie, but it doesn't offend me the same way that episode 2 does. That, I hate sand. It's coarse and it's rough. It gets everywhere. Yes, the lines in episode 1 are not good. Yes, young Anakin goes, yippee, at one point. But episode 2 just insults my soul. So anyways, these two, episodes 1 and 2, are pretty much personal opinion, but most people, I think, will agree that those are the 2 weakest Star Wars films. I might be wrong, and if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. I'm sure you guys all have your list of how you think these should sit. So, those are my bottom 2, numbers 8 and 7, respectively, 2 and 1. Then next, the next one is hard, because I like all the other Star Wars movies. I think episode 3 is good. I think episode 4 is fantastic and the reason why we have Star Wars. Episode 5 is also fantastic, and it even improves on quite a bit from episode 4. I just think episode 5 can't quite stand alone as well as some of the other Star Wars movies, and it is good. But I feel like episode 5, you need to watch episode 6 right after. But everyone's opinion is different. So far we have number 8 is Star Wars Episode 2. Number 7 is Star Wars Episode 1. And I'm going to say number 5 is now where we are. We're skipping over number 6 because number 5 is a tie, a two-way tie between Star Wars Episode 3 and Star Wars Episode 7. Now, some of you might hate me for saying this, but 7 is okay. Like, it's a good movie, and it's about as good as Star Wars Episode 3. Star Wars Episode 3 has a lot wrong with it in terms of it has some weirdness. There's still some stilted dialogue and whatnot. But Episode 7 is in a lot of ways a rehash and a retelling of Star Wars Episode 4. So those each bring those down a certain amount for me. And Star Wars Episode 3 has some awesome sequences. And I love the lightsaber battles in Episode 3. They improved enough on certain technologies that they were able, like the problems with the lightsaber fight at the end of Episode 2, where it was just like a stuntman with Christopher Lee's head, CGI poorly on top. They improved that technology quite a bit for Episode 3, and they used different types of directing techniques, George Lucas did, in order to, like the lightsaber duel between Mace Windu and the Emperor. It's a pretty intense battle, and those are some older guys that are doing that, and they do a good job of that kind of stuff. And the duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan seems very, very choreographed, and I understand that, but I personally think it has a lot of emotion behind it, and it makes the battle in Episode 4 between Obi-Wan and Anakin quite a bit more meaningful. And it fills out what we know about the falling apart of these two great friends. And so far we have episodes. Okay, so number 8, Episode 2. Number 7, Episode 1. Number 5, we have a tie, a two-way tie between Star Wars Episode 3 and Star Wars Episode 7. And don't get me wrong, I love Star Wars Episode 7 for what it is, right? That was what they needed to do to reboot the franchise, and I am fine with it. It just ended up being not quite as good of a movie as it could have been if they didn't copy. I would have loved to have seen something new. They could have still done the familiar and the new in a certain way, like they did with Rogue One, where it felt familiar and new at the same time. But Star Wars Episode 3, my biggest gripe is that we didn't get enough time to live with certain characters. Like, I would have loved to spend more time with Kylo Ren and Han Solo, aka Ben Solo and Han Solo, and feel their relationship a bit more before, as spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen Episode 7, but before he killed his father, that would have been a much more emotional and impactful scene if we had seen them interacting earlier in the film. So, there's a couple things that I can find wrong with Episode 7, similarly to Episode 3. So that's why those two share the 5th spot. Now we're getting into some fucking hard decision-making time. Because now we have Rogue One and the original trilogy. Now, the tricky thing is where do we place these movies? So, I'm going to work through this while we're doing this. So I think, for me, Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, has to be number 1. It has to be in the 1 position. Because without that movie, we wouldn't have all these other ones. None of the other movies are as good without Episode 4. So, now, if Episode 4 is number 1, I think that I'm going to have to put Rogue One in the next slot. We have, in position 4, I will say Rogue One. Which, don't get me wrong, I love Rogue One. But I think it has to sit beneath the original trilogy for the simple fact that I think that if you have not seen the original trilogy, Rogue One would not be quite as good. Don't get me wrong, I still think it would be an awesome movie, and I think it can still stand on its own, but it wouldn't be as awesome as I think it is if I had not seen, especially A New Hope, but all of the Star Wars movies, really. The scene with Darth Vader at the end, spoiler alert, I guess. Not really, like, I'm not going to tell you what happens in the scene, just if you know what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie. That scene with Darth Vader at the end would not be as impactful if we would have, like, if in episode 3 they did something similar to that, then the scene in Rogue One wouldn't have been as impactful. So, like, Rogue One is only impactful because of the, like, what's happened so far with the Star Wars universe. And so the big thing for me is that, yeah, I think that Rogue One might not be as enjoyable if you haven't seen, especially A New Hope. Like, it lines up so perfectly with A New Hope that maybe, okay, you maybe don't need to see A New Hope before, but you need to see it right after. So it does stand alone in a way, but it also very heavily almost relies on the other Star Wars films in order to get you, like, to be good, kind of thing. Like, it's only as good as it is because of the other Star Wars films. And so that brings it down a little bit. So it's at number 4 for me. Now, this is where it gets tricky. What's better, Return of the Jedi or The Empire Strikes Back? Now, some people will automatically say Empire Strikes Back because there's Ewoks in Return of the Jedi, which, okay, if that's what you think, I can't argue with that. I personally like the Ewoks, and I like the message they represent in terms of, you don't always need to be the big... They're almost like Yoda in a way, where it's wars and size. Like, wars not make one great. Judge me by my size, do you? That's the thing. No, just because something's bigger and looks more intimidating doesn't mean that they are always going to win. And I think that was an incredibly awesome message for the third film. Also, Return of the Jedi, everyone talks about the Empire Strikes Back lightsaber duel between Luke and Vader, which, yeah, it's cool. It's an emotional battle. But Return of the fucking Jedi, man? Are you kidding me? There is no lightsaber battle that is more emotionally impactful than Star Wars Return of the Jedi. At the very end, he has been brought to almost killing his own father. And he looks at himself and he realizes, I'm becoming my own father if I go through with this. And he faces the Emperor and he says, you know what? No, I will never join you. I'm a Jedi like my father before me. And right now, I'm even getting goosebumps right now thinking about this scene. It's the most emotionally powerful scene, I think, in all of Star Wars. That line, I'm a Jedi like my father before me. This is Luke accepting the truth, that is, Anakin Skywalker still lives inside of Darth Vader. This is him denouncing the dark side. It lines up very well with, in episode 7, Kylo Ren's little thing at the end there when he faces off against Han Solo. But Kylo Ren goes the other way and he embraces that dark side. He says, you know what? I'm gonna kill my dad. I am a bad guy. I want to be Darth Vader. And Luke says, I don't want to be Darth Vader. I want to be Anakin. And in fact, he saves Anakin. Anakin was almost lost, but he brings him back from the brink. And he has one more, and for the first time, he actually talks to his father, Anakin Skywalker. And it's an emotional conversation. Let me look on you with my own eyes for once. But you'll die. I know, but I'm already gonna die. So just let me have this moment. It's very powerful, and it ties together the entirety of all of the Star Wars movies that are very heavily impacted by family. It's similarly to Fast and the Furious. It's a very important thing in the Star Wars universe. Family, the Skywalker family. And now with Rey, we don't know what family she's a part of. Also now with Rogue One, we have the Ursos. That there's some very strong family themes in the new movie, and that's the thing. Star Wars is about family, And the ultimate display of that is in Return of the Jedi with that scene, I am a Jedi like my father before me. And I know I've already said that like 4 or 5 times in this podcast, but geez, man, it's a powerful scene. It gets me every time. And so it's a toss-up for me between Empire and Return. But I think I'm going to have to say Empire is number 3. Return of the Jedi is number 2 for me. And A New Hope is number 1. So that list, again, and I want to know your guys' list. Hit me up in the comments section, whether this is on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, however you're listening to this or ingesting it. I'd love to know your guys' list, especially if you've seen Rogue One. Even if you haven't seen Rogue One, hit me up with your list. But yeah, especially if you've seen Rogue One, where does it rank? So for me, it goes number 8, Star Wars Attack of the Clones. Number 7, Star Wars The Phantom Menace. Number 5, we have a tie, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, tied for number 5, right? Yeah, that was tied for number 5. So then number 4, I'm going to fucking write this shit down. How about, maybe not, because I don't have a pen or a pencil, because I'm in my car. But anyways, so number 4 is Rogue One. I almost forgot there for a second. So, yeah, I'm going to write this down so that I can actually say them in English. All right. Number 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, number 8, Attack of the Clones. Number 7, Phantom Menace. There is no number 6 because we have a tie for number 5 at Revenge of the Sith and The Force Awakens. Number 4, Rogue One, because if you haven't seen Episode 4 and the other movies, it's not as impactful. In my opinion, I don't know because I've seen those movies. So if you haven't seen Episode 4, if you've only seen Rogue One, I'd really love to know what you think of it. Or even if you've only seen Episode 7 and Rogue One, because I don't know how good the movie is without seeing Episode 4, because it lines so well up with Episode 4 and it does what I wanted it to do. I'm not sure if you haven't seen Episode 4 how the movie is. So let me know if that's you. Anyways, what's next? Number 3. For number 3, I'm gonna have to do Empire Strikes Back, and I know this is blasphemy to a lot of people, and a lot of people have Empire as their first, which rightfully so. It improves on the movie, but just for my criteria, I can't put it there because Episode 4 is a standalone movie. You can watch it by itself or with all the other ones. It's the most standalone movie. I think 5 you can't watch without watching 6 right after. It's kind of important, and it's the only one that has such a cliffhanger ending. I mean, Episode 2 sort of does, but it's garbage, so fuck it. And then, also, by the way, another thing that makes Episode 2 garbage, it's the only main series Star Wars movie that doesn't open up to a bad guy ship. Or, from a certain point of view, bad guy ship. Attack of the Clones does not. It opens up to Padme's, like, silver plane thing. Then Phantom Menace does. It opens up to the Trade Federation ship. Revenge of the Sith opens up to that awesome space battle at the start of Revenge of the Sith. The Force Awakens opens up to Kylo Ren's Star Destroyer. Rogue One, it even has a transport that, not Jenner, so what's his name? Orson Welles, that's not his name. Orson Krennic. His ship is the opening. Empire Strikes Back, we have the Star Destroyer shooting the, whatever they're called, the little, I can't fucking remember the name. Probe droids. Shooting the probe droids out into Hoth. Then we have Return of the Jedi, which, what am I thinking of here? I think it opens on the second Death Star, actually, the Return of the Jedi. And then number 1, Star Wars A New Hope, of course, opens on the classic Tantive 4 Dominator, I believe, is the Star Destroyer. So that list again. Now that I finally have it all written down, I'm going to turn on my light. Anyways, here we go. So the list, as it stands for me, and I'd love to know yours, especially if it's different. Number 8, Attack of the Clones. Number 7, The Phantom Menace. Number 5, a two-way tie between Revenge of the Sith and The Force Awakens. Number 4, Star Wars Rogue One. Number 3, Empire Strikes Back. Number 2, Return of the Jedi. And number 1, best Star Wars film, still, for me, is A New Hope, aka Star Wars. Let me know your list in the comments below. That's it for me for this motherfucker. Also, by the way, over the past, actually, in between my two, I saw Star Wars Rogue One on the Thursday, the opening day. Then, over the span of the next, on Friday, I listened to Catalyst, the Rogue One prequel. Then I rewatched Rogue One on Saturday. And I gotta say, I don't think you need Catalyst to enjoy Rogue One. It's cool. It just tells you about Orson Krennic and Galen Erso, which are not, Orson Krennic, I think it adds he's really the character that you learn more about, and the relationship between those two. By the way, this is my reading, watching, or playing. I didn't mention that. That's what this is. So yeah. Oh, fuck, I forgot. There's a couple trailers. Trailer time. Anyways, so the Blade Runner 2049 or whatever trailer came out today. I gotta say, I'm pretty excited. We didn't see much from it, but I'm getting pumped. I can't wait. I really do like Blade Runner quite a bit. And I liked it. I like Denis Villeneuve, or I'm terrible at pronouncing names. I love his work, especially with Sicario. I believe that was last year. And yeah, he's just a really good director, and I can't wait to see what he does in this franchise. And I know it's weird to say franchise, that's one movie, but there's a second movie now, so it's a franchise. But anyways, my reading or watching or playing was Catalyst. It's a good book. It's not my favorite Star Wars book. It's not horrible. It's just kind of middle ground for me. But one thing that I found very interesting about Catalyst was how much they tried to. It's a more of a science fiction book than any of the other Star Wars books, because there's not a lot of yes, there's kyber crystals, but they're talking about them in a sense, in a quantum physical sense and stuff like that. So that part I found really interesting. But other than that, it's just a good book. It's not great, it's not bad, but I do recommend checking it out. It does fill out a little bit of the story for Rogue One. Not really the Rogue One story, but just some of the characters that are in the story. So check it out. I don't know what to tell you guys. Thanks for checking me out and this podcast, Carcast. That's gonna be it. Thank you. And until next time, never stop using the Force. May the Force be with you. Always.
Glad to see you here on YouTube. Now you wonder what should I do. Staring at my faces from Memory Nation. I wanna find a place that's for conversation. Where do they discuss all the latest movies? Or when something big happens in the news? See, that's us. What are we talking about?